Hello friends, bonjour. I'm Ken Wasco and welcome to a Gordon Food Service virtual webinar. Today we're going to be talking about a subject that is very important, how we look. Now, this is what I used to look like. You know that. This is what I look like now because these are the times we're living in. Can I get this off, please? And let's get serious about what's going on with this COVID-19 pandemic that's crossing all of North America, actually all over the world right now. Let's deal with some of the facts that are out there, some of the misinformation that's out there, and talk about how we can rebuild our business once we get open. We're open now, we got that. We're open under different conditions. I've been to restaurants that have plastic dividers between the seats. I've been to places that have, they're seating you every third table. I've been to places that don't even know what they're doing yet that are out there. But let's develop a strategy here together that works off the fact that we're dealing with every day as part of the business. There's myths and there's facts. I want to make sure that you understand that the information I'm going to provide you is factual. I've done the research on this presentation. Everything that you're going to hear from this point on is very factual. For example, I went to Forbes magazine, and Forbes magazine said that 92% of businesses, not just food service. So now we're talking about your suppliers. Now we're talking about, any vendors that you may deal with, any customers that you may call on. 92% of businesses across North America have been affected negatively because of the coronavirus. So we get this, that it's out there. Everybody knows that. So what? Well, I know you may know that, but let's talk about what you may not know, because we've got an opportunity now that we're in this period of rebirth to decide what's going to happen in the future. Are we going to return to normal? Is there going to be a new standard of normal that's out there? Or should we just roll the dice and figure out what's going to happen? Or should we use this time wisely to figure out what indeed is going to be happening and how we're going to respond to it? I'll give you a little hint. I'm looking at number 2 and number 3 as being the big issues that are out here in terms of the industry. So what do we do now? Number 1, let's talk about where you get your information from. Opinions are plentiful. They're all out there. Everybody's got one. But let's talk about where you get your information from. Before you make any changes, before you start to do anything that's going to head your business, head your employees, head you towards the future, consider who you're hearing the information from. Worst place you can get advice from and what to do with your business, and you already know this, is to ask a family member what you should do, or to ask a neighbor, or to ask a friend what you should do. This is not the time to get someone involved in your business that just speculates. Should you talk to another business owner and see what the heck they're doing and get your information going? I think that's a good idea. I think it's a good idea to gain information from as many people that are going through a similar challenge to you. I dealt with one operator, and this is 20 years ago, but it has stayed in my mind for 20 years. When I first started doing these seminars and getting out and talking to operators that were there, I had an operator that actually told me one time, I'm not going to share any of my operational pastimes with you or anybody else or any of the activities that I do, because everybody wants to know how I do business because I do it right. And I remember at the time listening to that going, we probably should not just trust our own opinion, because we have our way of doing things. But what we've learned through this pandemic and through actually just the times that we've been in is there's a lot of different ways to do anything. Be careful when you talk to a salesperson, and I'm part of that industry that calls on you. Be careful. When salespeople are approaching you with something they want you to buy it for a reason. So they're going to tell you something, and once you give them the check, they are out of your hair and you're not going to see them anymore. So if you're going to look for advice from a salesperson, do it from someone who has their own success dependent upon your success. And I'm just going to do a little commercial here for this Gordon Food Service organization that I spent the majority of my food service career in. We cannot succeed unless you succeed. So it's incumbent upon me to give you advice that is not only factual, but also can help you grow and be successful as quickly as you can be, so that we can be as successful as quickly as we can be. So we know there's misinformation out there. It's been going around. I don't want to give you any information. I want to give you facts. So what I have done is I've gone to the sources for information. I've done my research on this. I spent a lot of time in the library. I spent a lot of time online. I've spent a lot of time reading various things before I decided to share them with you. These are the sources I went to for the first part of this presentation. They're all ethical. They're there. And they're telling us, okay, this is what you should do for a COVID-19 business response. Number 1, assess where you are. And don't look at where you are this week versus last week. No, look at where you are this week versus a year ago. Are you really down as much as you think you're down? Are you down more than you think you're down? In some cases, people may actually be up because they found a different way to do it. But assess your position. Once you've assessed, reconsider. Are you doing things the way you've always done them, or is it time for us to look at perhaps a new way to do things, to reconsider a different approach to doing things? Get your ducks in a row in terms of resources. Right now, are there sources of finances that you may need? Are there sources for people that you may need to utilize? Are there sources for advice that you can go to that you can trust? It's a good time to do that. It's also a good time to revamp what it is you're going to do going forward. We can't do business in the way we've always done it if we want to succeed in a new environment. We have to do things a different way. That affects us as suppliers, that affects you in your personal life, that affects what's going on with your business. And then create a timeline and put mileage markers along the timeline. You know, by X date on the calendar, I expect to have this done. By X date on this calendar, Y date, I expect to have this done. By Z date, I expect to have this done. That mileage markers, as I call them, along the road to success, help you and help everyone stay on track with what you're doing. And then develop a contingency. Develop a contingency. What if this gets worse? What if business plummets? What if business takes off? What are you going to do? Now, I listened to this. I looked at every one of these sources that you see that's on the left and a whole bunch more in checking the internet. And to tell you the truth, you know, this all comes down to be prepared. Well, this isn't a pandemic response. All these pieces of advice are things you ought to be doing all the time anyway, right? You ought to be assessing your business all the time anyway. You ought to be developing a strategy all the time anyway. So all these people that worry about numbers are worried about is looking at numbers. I'm thinking it's a little deeper than that. And I'm thinking we need some new thinking. New thinking represents new possibilities, right? Different ways of looking at things. New possibilities for what? New possibilities to be better. To be better at what? To be better at not only what we have always done, be better at what we've always done. See the little period on there? Be better at all we've done with a period. Can we please get rid of that period? I want to get rid of that period, and instead I want to replace it with a comma. Let's be better at what we've always done in consideration of how things have changed. Because this is a different world we're living in. You know that. It's a different time. It's a different environment. People that think I can't wait till things return, hate to bust your bubble here, but it's probably never going to return to the way it was. So let's accept that. We've got some changes that are going on. Let's be good at what we do. And let's be good at what we do in light of how things have changed. All right? So what's changed? Once again, I'm going to go to my sources. I'm going to find out what's exactly changed. From everything that I have read and the conversations that I have had, but mainly the data that I have read, I've read about, say two things. There has been a whole bunch of changes that have affected consumers dealing with the food service industry. Okay, I get that, our customers that walk in the door. But then there's that second customer we have to deal with, the one that walks in the back door, our employee. Those are our two contingencies that we should worry about. So mainly the changes that affect you and your operation in this 50-minute seminar I'm going to give you, I'm going to focus in on consumer changes happening across North America, and I'm going to be focusing on employee attitudinal changes, once again, across North America. So the data that you're going to see is something that I've had an opportunity to harvest. But when we get into people now, it's one thing when you go to a magazine or a business publication or something else and say what we should do, and it goes assess, reevaluate, get a strategy, have a plan, yeah, blah, 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 blah. I've heard that kind of stuff, you know, plan, work your plan your fail the plan to fail, whatever that is. That whole thing that's out there. When we start dealing with people, I don't think I'm going to go to accountants to ask that kind of advice. I'm going to check different sources. So I went to a lot of the more popular publications that are out there, you know, things like Entrepreneur and Fast Company, but especially things like Psychology Today and Consumer Behavior, because this is going to tell us across North America what the heck is going on and how it's going. Let's begin with consumers. We'll start talking about that. With consumers, so what's changed? I'll give you the Cliff Notes on this because there's a lot of stuff that's written about. Cliff Notes, if you remember, I remember being in school 50 years ago, and I always wrote Cliff Notes because I didn't want to do the whole book, so I would just buy a Cliff Note and give the short subject. Everything comes down to this, as it relates to consumers. In light of the pandemic, consumers will continually want and to see, hear, and feel the presence of a manager to assure their safety. Understand the importance of this statement. This is a huge statement. Managers, supervisors, lead people cannot stay in the back of the house, cannot stay by the cash register. They have to be out on the floor. If you feel like you have to do something, grab a disinfectant bottle and walk around and help disinfect every table that's there. Customers are looking at what you are doing to help keep them safe. Consumers are not stupid. Consumers get on the internet. They find out what's going on with the pandemic. They find out what's going on with the cures that are out there. They find out what's happening in terms of how businesses are responding to this. They see what's happening. They hear about what's happening, and they watch, and they will support those places. So that's a big deal. Number one is consumers. Food service businesses got to take a stand. You got to take a stand. Consumers want to know who you support. That's a big deal with consumers. Consumers today are making a decision to come to your business not exclusively because it is close to their house, which was what we used to say, location, 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 or not exclusively because you happen to have a menu they like Italian, they like that on Thursday night, so they're coming to No, no, no. People are more and more at a higher percentage, at almost monthly, are deciding where they're going to go on the basis of who you support and what it is you do in the community. And I'm not talking putting up, I support the bowling team and I buy the shirts for the team and put that up there. No, 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 no. How are you involved in helping solve the topical issues that are going on in your locale today? And I'm talking about things that are tough to talk about. You know, the homeless crisis or diversity that's happening. What are you doing? Let people know what you are doing. You know, and consumers are seeing that if you're putting action to your claims of what you're doing by who you hire. When consumers walk in the door, they are looking at who you have out front. They're looking at who you have in the back, and they're making a value judgment up against their own set of values of what they think is the right thing to do. I spent a lot of time talking about millennials and what millennials are concerned about in the marketplace. Millennials aren't it, but they're going to be it one of these days as it comes through. Millennials base their buying decisions on whether a business mirrors their own set of values. So think about that. Consumers also want to know that they have your assurance, not your business's assurance, your assurance that you're taking their safety seriously and you're utilizing their precautions. They better see you in a mask. They better see you during this time with a sanitation bottle. They better see you walking around with a hand sanitizer, offering people complimentary on their hand. Not just when they walk in the door and not just when they walk out, but if you can communicate to them through your actions that you are concerned about their safety. I was at a place Saturday. The service was horrible, but I did watch the manager. And the manager was doing the spray to the table down. It was there. When they brought our silverware to us, it is a very popular restaurant, but it was wrapped in a plastic bag. And the silverware said on it that this has been sanitized for your safety. And I actually literally had to rip the plastic bag open to get at the silverware. My wife said, "Isn't this great that they're doing that?" And I thought, yeah, you know what? You're exactly right. What do consumers want to know? Consumers want to know your seating plan. We used to say, get a chalkboard, put your menu outside, let people read it when they come in. You know what? That's a good thing to do. Here's another good thing to do. Put your seating chart out there because people want to know, are you seating me every table? Are you seating me every other table? Are you seating me every third table? What do you have between tables? What are you doing to ensure that social distancing is happening correctly? I got a feeling this whole social distancing thing is going to stay with us a lot longer than just the next few months. And so making those kinds of changes and those kinds of concessions are a lot more than putting a table tent on a table that says we're not doing this. They want to see your seating chart. You know what else they want to know? They want to know what your protocols are. So if you're putting a seating chart out there, also put on the seating chart, we sanitize every table before and after every service. We sanitize every chair, the floor, the walls every evening. We do all of this. I was talking at a casino just a couple of weeks ago, and they told me that where they literally were open 24 hours, they're not anymore. Now they shut down at midnight, and a whole crew comes in from midnight to 6 o'clock in the morning, and they sanitize the entire place. And I was amazed when I was walking through to see these plastic dividers between casinos that were going on, and every one of them is being sanitized all the time. People want to see that. Remember, they want to know that you're concerned about their safety. Consumers, by and large, believe, and this statistic really jumped out at me because I thought it's a great thing to hear. Consumers, by and large, believe today that you're preparing food well, and you're doing food well, and you're packaging up together. I'm not as convinced as a consumer. This isn't Ken talking now. I'm talking as a consumer. I'm not as convinced that the safety practices you utilize in the back are transferring to how you seat me in the restaurant and what you do with me in the beginning, in the seating area. Make sure that there's an equal amount of attention applied to both because people are concerned about that. Now, your online presence, I'll jump a little bit off this COVID thing and get into this. Your online, what you're doing for COVID should be on your online presence. Your online presence should be robust. It should be interactive and it should be personal. The idea of putting a $50 web page out there is not going to work anymore, or getting a $500 web page that's just good enough to get. It's not good enough for anybody anymore. When we say the word robust, it means it has to interact with me. It has to, if I want this, it's going to click. It's going to take me from here to there. Invest that time. You used to put money, you did. You put money into yellow page advertising, church bulletin advertising, advertising for sports teams. You got your business going in the community. You're probably not investing in that stuff anywhere now. What are you doing with that money? It's not that you're just putting it in your pocket. You got to put it in a different way where people are going and people are responding to. Now here's you probably already know this. I was a little shocked at how important prompt delivery has to be, regardless of the price. So I don't know if we're talking about a $5 entree, a $15 entree, or a $35 entree. If I call you and decide that I would like you to deliver it at home, don't you trust my delivery to Uber. Don't you trust my delivery to Lyft. And I'm sorry, my Uber and Lyft friends that are out there, but getting it to me when it's okay, nuh-uh, I don't want to do that. Think about what the pizza places do. They're the masters of it. Think about what they do. Your pizza will arrive at your house within 30 minutes. I got it. And by the way, if it's not there, I'm gonna help you in that way. And by the way, it's gonna be prompt and it's gonna be hot when you get it. So it's those kinds of things. Think about what's working in the world and use that. Lastly, and the big point I want to talk about with this, because people are staying home now, think about people having to do multiple jobs, having to be a parent, having to be now all these things that they sometimes could farm out to teachers or maybe daycare people and other things like that. Well, those resources aren't available to me. Parents still want to educate their children. So they educate their children when they take them out. They take them out, they show them how to have social graces, what the society's doing, why you have to wear a mask, why we're social distancing between people, why there's different kinds of cuisines out there. Don't put a kid's menu on your menu that says we offer burger, chicken nuggets, and a piece of pizza, whatever it is you want. Not good enough. Not anymore. Not anymore. We spend time at our company, Gordon Food Service, researching continually what different types of foods are attractive to young people. It's not just pizza and hot dogs anymore. It's very different. You do some research and find out about that. That's the food stuff that's there. Now, that's what's mainly changed. All of this is what's mainly changed. And in terms of consumer perception, what has not changed, once again, I'm going to go to my sources, and my source for this one is Restaurant Business, because Restaurant Business does their research across North America. It's Canadian and it's US based, so I'm happy to do that. So what's not changed? What's not changed is people are still sensitive to the price. They're still sensitive to their reward card that they get, and they still want to know there's an enticement to get me to get off the couch and come into your business to do this. So some things have changed, but some things haven't changed. People want to be safer. They want to be more secure. They don't want to have to pay for it. They want to see different menu options available to them. They don't want to have to pay for it. They want to get home delivery. They don't want to have to pay for it. So all of that are the challenges that we've been dealing with for a good long time. And where are they finding out their sources of information? Check this out, if you will, because I just did a seminar earlier today where I talked about how important social media has become, not only to the millennials, we know that, but also to people like me. I'm 70 years old. And where do I get my information from when I'm sitting at home? I'm not just twiddling my thumbs or watching soap operas. I'm on Google, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Yelp, I'm on TripAdvisor. My children, who are in their 30s and don't even live where I do, they live in other parts of the country, will tell me when I think about someplace I want to go out in the town I live in. Now they're living, I got one that lives in Orlando and one that lives in Boston, but my daughter will call me back and she go, Dad, I was just on TripAdvisor and I looked at that restaurant you and Mom were thinking about going to. Yeah, you better pick another place. What? That's how it works today. So your presence on the social media sites has got to be very, very important, understanding what your presence looks like that's on there. And if you have to hire someone or put someone or give someone a challenge that's on your team to keep your social media presence great, good, do that, because it's going to be fun. So now let's go back. Enough about consumerism. Let's talk about what's happening with employees right now and what's big. These are, once again, research across North America. Attitudinal changes happening by generations are important. Specifically, we're looking at what's the response to employees, employee hiring, and employee attitudes that are going on there as it relates to where employers are choosing to work. I'll tell you what's changed. It's very big as a cause. And here's the cliff notes on this. In light of the pandemic, by and large, people not just, well, people, if people are employees, okay, let's look at it that way, are feeling they are misunderstood and underappreciated. And because of that, the stress is growing inside of them. Think about the typical employee you may have, if there is such a thing. You know, people used to have their home life and they had their work life. You know, if they were fortunate enough, blessed enough to have children, well, what would the children do? Children go off to be, taught at school during the day, or maybe they would go off to daycare, or maybe they would do something else. Well, daycare doesn't exist anymore, and schools doesn't exist anymore. So the typical employee is doing 3 jobs. And the research that I had is the typical person's workload has increased 30% since the pandemic started. And the reason it has increased is because now they got to be a full-time mom or a dad. Now they've got to be a full-time teacher, because of the things that are going on. And that just builds to the stress of feeling underappreciated. People are fragile. You cannot have a day go by, I can anyway, where I don't look where somebody has exploded in a retail store, or somebody has gone off the deep end at a pizza place when somebody didn't do the thing that they consider to be right, or when somebody required them to wear a mask, they just flipped out. What's that all about? It's all about that tip of the iceberg, that stress level has gotten to the point where something's going to set them off, and it'll set them off. I used to do seminars, and I still do actually, about dealing with an irate customer. And I would have people tell me, it's an infrequent thing. It's an infrequent thing that a really jerky person comes in here and doesn't like the menu and doesn't like the service. It's an infrequent thing, but I'm glad to learn about it. It's not infrequent anymore. It's not infrequent because when everything's out of control, I'm going to grab what I can control. And so people are now starting to look at, I'm going to bite back. And if something just goes over me, so you have to help your people be empathetic to the customer that comes in the door. Consumers today want the same thing employees want. Employees want to work with people that feel they are understood, that you understand the personal stresses I have. If I have 10 children, that's my personal stress. If I have 1 child, that's my personal stress. If I have a $1,000 a month house payment, that's my personal stress. If I have a $100 a month rent, those are my personal stress. Understand that individually. You can't put anybody in a block. Your job as an owner or a manager or a supervisor is to really dig into understanding your people individually and do what you can to ensure there is success. And here we go again. The onus to success is going to be you. I got to put it there because employees at all levels in the organization want to continually see, hear, and feel your presence. The presence of an involved manager that assures their safety and their security. That means hiding in the office or doing all this stuff is not acceptable anymore. People want to see that leader out front, and they want to be that way. So 2 things we got in common here between what's going on with consumers and what's going on with employees across North America again, is that people want to see a more active, participative supervisor and manager that they're working for. That's just very, very important. So as we get into this, and we talk about what's changed in terms of how employees are looking at things, there's the notes I put out here before. Here's what employees are saying across North America. I'm stressed out, baby. I'm stressed out. And I cannot suppress this stress all the time. And because, I hear you that you say, keep your home problems at home and keep your work problems where it doesn't work like that anymore. If I'm stressed out, your customers are going to feel it. I've been in places where I've said to people a simple thing like, hey, how you doing? And when somebody fires back to me, oh, I'm here. I go, okay, what's that about? What I'm hearing as a customer is I'm going to get crappy service. They don't give a rip about what's going on. I've got, how do you think I do? How you doing? How do you think I'm doing? I got 3 kids. They're all sitting at home. Nobody's watching them. Whoa. As an owner, as a manager, you have to counsel people to be appropriate in how they deal with that. And here's another big thing that employees are looking at. I want boundaries on me, baby. I want boundaries. I want clear boundaries. If my job is to have this section of the restaurant, and I'm responsible within this section of the restaurant for not only setting the tables, but cleaning the tables, taking care of the menus and all that stuff, then that's my job. The person that's in the dish room, their job is this. Here's my boundaries. Here's my boundaries. I want you, as my boss, to understand where my role is, communicate with me what my responsibilities. You'd never assume people understand how to treat a customer right. Show them how to treat a customer right. Now's the time to reevaluate. This is the way we've all had to put brakes on what it is we do, and we all have had to look at what we do in light of the change that has happened. Employees today are saying, I want to be in the know. Good enough communication is not good enough. I want great communication. How are we doing? You as a manager, it's okay. And as a matter of fact, you should. If you want people to own their job, to own their position, to feel good about what it is they do, tell them how we're doing. Tell them how is our sales today versus a year ago? How's our sales versus a week ago? What are the most popular entrees that are selling on the menu? What do we need to push a little bit more? Talk to me about that. Engage me in the business. Ask me for my opinion on things because I want to grow. As an employee, I want to grow. I know that what we're experiencing because of this pandemic is not a permanent thing. It's a temporary thing. Will we come back and be different? Of course we will. How will we come back? Hey, I'm stressed out about that. I don't know. Can you help me with that? Can you help me understand what we're going to do going forward? Can you help me with that? Because if you can help me with that, it's going to help me deal with things. I want to be trusted by you. I want to know you trust me. And I'm going to get into how you know that and how I know you trust me in a few minutes. I also want to have my own responsibilities because if that's my responsibility, then I got a chance to own it. I want to work for somebody that respects me. I want to take pride in my employer and my work. I want to learn, and this stuff has come to the surface. I want to achieve. I'm looking at this list now while I'm doing this presentation. I put this list together over the past several weeks as I've been doing my research on that. And as the closer I got, and we're talking about what's new with employees and what's going on with employees in the marketplace today, I put this list together and I said, is this really new? Isn't this the way it has always been? Here's the challenge for food service operators. It may be what all of us have always wanted. It's what very few organizations have delivered to people. If there is a reality that has hit us, ladies and gentlemen, stop, listen to me. If there is a reality that has happened through this pandemic and through people being furloughed and laid off, but people have learned that I pretty much can work anywhere I want to work. There's a lot of places that are looking for employees. So I'm going to seek out a place. Now look at the list that I've got on the board here. Look at the list. I want to work for a place that understands I'm stressed. I want to work for a place that gives me responsibility, that helps me grow, that makes me feel good about it. The bases, is that a word? The bases of man, I don't know. What's basic to management and leadership is now becoming more and more in people. So here's what you can do. Number one, think about these subjects that I just talked about, and let's dig deeper into them. The first one is people want clear expectations and goals. Do one-on-ones. The idea of a yearly evaluation with people, you do this. I remember when I worked at the hospital 35 years ago that, well, Ken, you're a 7 on attitude. You were a 6.5 last year, but now you're a 7, so you're doing better on that. In terms of timeliness, you're a 6. You used to be, what does that mean? All I cared about when people were giving me those numbers was, we're going to get a raise or not. That's all I cared about when I listened to it, because it was just one of those things that happened, so infrequently it didn't matter. And if they gave me a goal, what do I care? I'm not going to hear about it for a year. What we have learned about millennials, people under the age of 40, they better get an evaluation every day. I want to know how I'm doing every day. You've got an opportunity to stroke me or correct me every day, pulling in those curbs on the road that I may think I'm driving down a 6-lane highway, but you want me, who's your server, to really work within this frame and within these 2 lanes. Talk to me and make sure you communicate with me what your expectation of me is, because most problems happen because people never felt they had a clear goal or a clear expectation set onto them by their boss. The expectation goals are big. Recognition and praise. Let's go to that one. Come on, think about yourself. If you feel good about what it is you do better at what it is you do. If you don't feel good about what you do, you don't do good. So people are seeking praise. The old motivational thing, everybody's got a radio station between their ears, WIIFM. People listen to information, what's in it for me? So I want you to recognize me and praise me. And here's the most powerful way you do it. Don't come up to me and say, you did a good job today. Or, I used to, I'll confess here, when I was a manager at a very big hospital right here in the town I'm broadcasting this from 35 years ago, I used to sit at the time clock at 3:30 and the whole first shift would leave and I'd go, good job, 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 good job. I'd say, you know what, who that meant? That didn't mean anything to anybody, because I was saying the same thing to everybody. You want to do something really cool in your restaurant as you're walking around sanitizing tables or giving people little dabs of sanitizer to put on or getting in conversations, and you talk about the menu or you talk about the service. Bring Wanda's name into it. Bring Michael's name into it. Joey's one of the best people we got here. And make sure Joey's standing right there when you say it, because we wouldn't be able to operate this place without Chuck being on our payroll or without Mary being on our payroll. That's recognition. That's praise. I can take that to the bank. And you know what? I'm going to keep working for you, because that praise is like a drug. I'm going to come back. I need a hit every day. I got to get that. And who am I going to get it from? I'm going to get it from you. Now, in terms of communication, people got to be informed and aware of what's going on. It's not good enough to be good enough. You're going to hear me say that. It's getting nauseating. But I have to do that because, this whole business of, people know what they're supposed to do. People know how to treat a customer right. People know how to make change. Really? Really? Come on. Let's deal with people and make them aware of the challenges we have. There's all different ways to communicate today. Try to find me somebody that's not using a cell phone. So email's a way to communicate with people. Zoom meeting messages are ways to communicate with people. Electronic is the worst way to communicate negative information to people. If you ever met anybody that got fired on an email, you're going to know what I'm talking about. Or somebody that gets reprimanded. All that says is my boss is a coward. My boss couldn't talk to me face to face. Deliver negative information in person, because it's very important. And don't use poor communication or distance between people as an excuse for not being able to do it. Find a way. Make sure, those of you that have multi-unit facilities that are spread across a large geographic area, you want everyone across your organization to hear the information that you are deciding as the leader that they need to hear. And so you want to deliver that message. You want to deliver that message in such a way that they can take it, process it, and respond to it appropriately. And the way you're going to know they're doing that is you're going to spot check it. You're going to have to go back and look and see if people are getting what they need from you. How about growth? I want to grow. I want to know that there are different skills that I can have. Can you find ways to delegate some of your responsibilities effectively? Can you find ways to give people opportunities to do something different? A little while ago, I mentioned the importance of getting a younger person involved in your social media presence, because they just know how to do it. They get involved in there and they know what people are looking for. My wife's on Snapchat every day. I'm just starting to figure out how to get into Snapchat, but I do know that people are using it. So I'm going to go find somebody that knows how to use it, or Facebook Marketplace, or any of these other things that are there. I know that I like it when I have an opportunity to pick up a new skill, and I don't think I'm all that different from a lot of people that are out there. So take every situation that happens to you throughout the day and look at it as an opportunity to give one of your employees a new skill that perhaps they haven't had before. There's ample opportunity to do that. And it's nice to have people knowing how to do a few different things. Okay, so you get what I'm talking about with that. Let's move to a subject that's near and dear to my heart, and that's this issue of trust and what's going on. There is a wonderful, and I got to be honest with you, this is where I drew all of this from Lencioni's book on the 5 dysfunctions of a team. And in his book, what he says is the basic dysfunction that creates every other dysfunction that happens within a team comes from a lack of trust. Well, let's define trust for a minute. Trust is one of those things that I'm going to form an opinion on, and I'm going to form an opinion by watching what it is that you do and how it is that you do business. It's a story that's almost legend in the community I grew up with a very successful restaurant operator that didn't turn on their cash registers until 2 o'clock every day. That means every day, 7 days a week, all that sales just went in their hip pocket. It didn't go anywhere else. Well, and then, you find out, well, that's certainly unethical, but then you kind of found out, well, they drove to another state to pick up their alcohol. And so they didn't have to declare that. If you don't think employees are watching that and forming a value judgment on how you are as a person and how you are as an organization, you're wrong. Because people do. Don't ask me to be honest if you're not honest yourself. So someone is always watching what's going on. The other thing I'm doing is listening. Somebody is always listening. They're watching and they're listening. So we can mouth the words. We can put together mission statements and vision statements and say we're going to do all this stuff. But today, remember we're talking about employees today. Employees, are you walking the talk? Are you talking the walk? Are you doing all the things you need to do? What do I want? I want to have responsibility. I've learned through 70 years of living that greatness has little to do with money. It has little to do with education. It has little to do with position. It has little to do with power. Greatness comes from people overcoming the obstacles they put in front of them, and by giving a chance to exceed and excel at what they're trying to do. Listen to your team's ideas. Who can tell you how to better run the dish machine than the person who's doing it all the time? When's the last time any of us asked somebody on the dish machine, is there a better way to do this? Can we make this more efficient for you? What could we do to help with this? Ask, and then listen, and then respond, because people want to know that. If you have a problem, don't jump in and try to solve it yourself. I was so guilty of that for many, many years. I had to learn that I had to back away and ask someone else what their thoughts were. And if somebody made an idea, go for it, do it, try it. There's a lot of stuff here. Respect. 80%, big number, huh? 80% of employees say they don't get respect on the job. Don't get respect from who? Their coworkers? I don't think they worry about that. Get respect from the customers that come in the door? I don't think they worry about that. I think when employees make a comment like 80% of them aren't respected on a job, you know what they're talking about? They're talking about they're not respected by the person who's in the leadership position that's there. Don't have secrets. Don't not tell people. Be as open and as honest as you can. Don't instill fear in people. And please, 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 never talk to one peer level person about another peer level person. Don't do that. Don't talk to Bill about Mary, because Bill's going to be thinking the whole time you're talking to him about Mary, I wonder if he's talking to Mary about me. Talk to Bill about Bill. Talk to Mary about Mary. That's how you develop respect. Pride in your work. Most people want to do a good job. If you don't believe that, you're in the wrong role. If you think people are just going to work because they could care less, people want to do a good job. Knowing that I'm doing a good job motivates me. I feel good about who I am. Creating an upbeat work environment means making it fun. Can you make it fun for me? So we're talking here, let me stop and just take a little bit of a break and talk to you about the fact that up until this point, we've talked about two dynamics that are happening across North America. The factual information that we've learned to this point tells us that the COVID-19 response, the business response, the numbers, the debits, the credits response should be to be prepared. Okay, I get that. We should be doing that stuff all the time anyway. Do we need new thinking? Yeah, we need new thinking to help us do what we're going to do better. So let's look at what's different because of COVID-19. What's happening is consumers are performing differently in the marketplace than they have performed before. What are consumers looking for? Assurances. I want to know you're treating me well. I want to know I'm safe. I want to know that you care about me and my business, blah, 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 blah. And we went all through that consumer stuff. What are employees saying? Employees are saying, I can pretty much work anywhere I want to work. I'm stressed out, but so are you. We're all stressed out in this thing. I need somebody that just understands me, that takes the time to listen to me, that offers me some kind of life preserver that I can get out. Maybe you've got some ideas on some of my challenges I have that you may understand that one of my kids is sick and one of my kids is not sick and this kind of thing that you understand. Employees are saying actually the same thing that consumers are saying. Because employees are saying, most important person to me is the person I work for. That's the most important person. I'm watching them, I'm listening to them, I'm seeing what they do, I'm seeing how they do business, and I want them to provide me respect. I want them to say they trust me. I want them to tell me they will give me growth opportunities. This is the pandemic response that employees are saying, I can work anywhere. So I'm not going to work for a place that treats me poorly. I'm going to work for a place that treats me like I want to be treated. How do I want to be treated? I want to be important. I want to matter. I want to be somebody that's there. I want to learn. I want to keep learning and keep getting better at what I'm doing. Fortune, and I know you don't have budgets to do this, but Fortune magazine has told us the largest companies in America, the companies that people are saying are the companies they most want to work for, and not all these are big corporations that are out there, spend 40 or 60 hours of training with their employees every year. 40 to 60 hours. Oh my God, that's a whole week. Getting people to learn how to do what it is they do correctly. Oh my gosh, how many times can you teach a person how to use a 3-compartment sink well? Quite a few times, actually. How can you, teach people how to keep the place sanitary and do all these things quite a bit? Well, people will follow what it is you do. Is your company growing? Are you providing those opportunities for your team? Look in a mirror on this one. Are you doing it for yourself? Are you taking things like you're learning from seminars that I may provide or anybody else that's on the Gordon Food Service team here to heart to help you? Remember, we're not going to succeed unless you succeed. That's the truth to the matter. We are not going to succeed unless you succeed. And lastly, don't you want to win? Gosh almighty, I do. People want to align themselves with winners. People want to be where they're going to succeed. I want to be on a team. I want to be part of something that is bigger than myself. I keep saying, you know what? Because every research I did on all this digging deeper stuff told me that people simply want to do, well, that's what I've always wanted to do. So avoid not dealing with poor performance. Do it. Do it. I realize you got laws and other things you have for, but if you got a person who's not helping you gain business and they're helping you lose business, right? That's the secret. So here's what you can do. Number one, dig deeper. We just did that. Into the issues that are important to that employee group. The group of your consumers, your customers that walk in the back door. Remember, there's two types of customers. Ones that come in the front door, ones that come in the back door. Ones that come in the front door, those are your consumers. We're going to want to make sure they're safe. They want to make sure they're safe. They want to know what you're doing. Number two, what do employees want to know? They want to know that you understand them, that you're taking the time to get in their head a little bit and help them. Now, what's up? What can you do? You got to make a decision. Is it going to be business as usual, what I've always done? Or am I going to try to do things in perhaps a little bit of a different way, or perhaps a bigger way that's going to really, really impact my business? When have any of you in life, I don't care if you were a teenager or a young adult, or probably is a teenager, or a senior citizen like myself, when have you not had a challenge? Let's summarize what's going on right here. Here's the challenge. I don't know how many of you remember the old Sisyphus, I got to say that the right way, the Greek story that's out there about the person who, had the challenge of what they went through with life. Here's what's going on with employees. There will always be another issue. There will always be something. What do we try to do as a employee? We try to push that issue thing up the hill. We try to solve it. We try to do the best thing we can. But you know what happens once we get to the top of the hill when we're dealing with employee issues? Guess what? That challenge rolls down to the other side of the hill, and now we got to push it back up because we're trying to solve something else. It's a continual challenge. It's not just Sisyphus that was doing, I can't even say that word right, but you know what I'm saying. It's not just a Greek myth. It's a challenge for leadership, especially when dealing with employees. There will always be a challenge to deal with. But ladies and gentlemen, isn't that also true for how we deal with consumers? Isn't there always going to be yet another challenge? Yet a different way to do business, yet another way to go after things? Do you believe in your heart that the best way to do anything hasn't been done yet? Do you believe that? I do. I believe the best food service item hasn't been created yet. The best burger hasn't been created yet. The best pizza hasn't been created yet. The best form of service hasn't been delivered yet. The best website hasn't been created yet. Where is it? It's in your head and your employee's head. So as much as this little Greek mythology thing is true for consumers and true for employees, it's true for you too. You will always have a challenge you have to be dealing with. When will all of this be over? Never. It's just how we respond that matters. So let's transform the way we do business. We're in the home stretch now. Let me summarize for you the things that are most important. Trauma and stress. This is the big thing. It's affecting your customers. They're going to be stressed. They're going to react in different ways than they've done before. They're getting stressed at home. We've never had a situation like this pandemic happen since World War II, and most of us weren't alive in World War II to know what that was all about. Inner stress affects employees and affects consumers going forward. Please understand that people are fragile and they're connected to reality by a thread. That's true for you, that's true for your consumers that walk in the front door, and it's true for your employees that walk in the back door. Trauma and stress are big things to have to deal with. Culture. Culture is how your organization acts, how your organization performs. Communicate that. The onus to establishing culture is on you. People, leaders in leadership roles need to provide comfort and security to employees. That second level of management, the people that work for you, that report directly to you, that have the worker bees that are reporting directly to them, your second level of management and your employees are your business culture. When I walk into a place I say, hey, how you doing? And they go, this sucks. I only got another hour until I have to go home. Oh my gosh, listen, pull somebody aside. You can't talk like that to a customer. Correct them, pull the curbs in, talk to people. Show empathy towards employees for the challenges they're going through and what customers are going through too. If everybody's working towards the same goal, then challenges are going to be less threatening. Trauma and stress affects everybody. The culture of your organization is how we deal with everything. Now, our strategy has to be how we control the information that we give out in the marketplace. You control that. Don't let your employees control the narrative. Well, I don't know if I'm going to have a job next week or not. Well, I don't know. We're opening up today, but I don't know if we can survive by only having these numbers. No. The message that you give to customers, you are safe. You are secure. Our menu is innovative. We want you here. We want you to come back. We love you as a consumer. Please come back because we enjoy dealing with you. That message, if that's what you want to say to you, and what consumer doesn't want to hear that, has got to be the message that comes from your employee and the employee is going to say that message because their superior says that message. Control the narrative. How about safety? You cannot go overboard on sanitizers and masks and everything else that's out there today. People today want that. They want to be safe in the marketplace. Over-communicate what it is you try to make sure everyone is on the same page. I bet I can count on one hand, seriously, and I visit sometimes hundreds of operators in the course of a year. I bet I can count on one hand the number of operators that still do pre-shift meetings and post-shift meetings. Well, we basically say the same thing every day. So what? Isn't it great before business starts to remind everybody what we're trying to do today? Hey, we got strawberry shortcake on the menu. Let's push it. Let's talk about that. Let's make sure it's summertime. People want to go. It's fall. There's cider on the menu. Let's get people to buy that. Let's have people do that. Let's make sure that we give everybody the best possible service. Now let's rock and roll and get out there and do it. Pre-shift meetings are about rah, rah, yay team. Let's go out and do it. Post-shift meetings are about ask around. Hey, I'm proud of you for what you did for this. I'm proud of you for this and that and the other thing. Thank you. Thank you, all of you. Thank you individually for coming in today. Corrections to behaviors, that's a one-on-one conversation. You don't do that in a pre-shift meeting and a post-shift meeting. You don't blanket everybody and say, we need to give better service. What does that mean? Control, over-communicate to people about what's going on. Now, tough one for me to bring up, but I better bring it up because this is the time when people don't have money to pay bills. They haven't got it. They haven't got the business that's been coming in the door. If you decide to lean on somebody that maybe you've done an event for, or maybe you catered an event and they're being a little slow in paying you, understand that the way you respond to that customer is going to affect how they do business with you from now on and what's going to happen in the future. If you don't, how can any organization expect someone who has no business to pay? Now's the time to think about what it is we can do. That instruction and that direction on how we handle our creditors, people that owe us money, people we owe money to, is not you don't answer the phone, you deal with it. You get it on the table and let's discuss some of the things that are going on and make sure that decision on credit comes from top leadership. It has to. That's the way it is. And lastly, with customers, what a great time we are in terms of being able to find new business and lure new business. We have a chance to go out, draw that little circle around your business. Have you stopped at the bank and talked to them about the fact that we'd sure like to have you and your family come over for lunch, we'd sure like to stop and talk to people and go around. Think about how people build business. You can't just hang a shingle outside and hope that business is going to come in. You have to go after it today. You have to have people, you have to have yourself that's out there actively recruiting. If a customer comes in the door, don't hesitate to invite them back again. Don't hesitate to invite them to take advantage of maybe some promotion that you're doing, or get involved in your rewards program, or do something else that's there. People today want to be asked. So ladies and gentlemen, this has been a long hour, and it's very tedious, but there's a lot of information that I wanted to share with you. And I wanted to share it with you because I think there's a lot of misinformation that's out there. We're hearing things about what's going to happen with the economy and what's going to happen with businesses, what's going to happen with food service, and what's going to happen in manufacturing and all this stuff. Let's get to the reality of what people say. The business people, they're telling us, develop a plan, assess your business, get a strategy, go out there, reassess. Okay, I got that. I should have been doing that stuff all the time anyway. Your business is on the basis of the number of consumers that come in the front door, and your business will succeed with your consumers on the basis of how your employees feel about what's going on with your business. So if it sounds like this is all on your shoulders, it kind of sort of is, but you know what? People love to copy people that they respect. So on behalf of all of us that work for Gordon Food Service, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to what it is that we had to listen to all of us that are offering these programs. We want you to succeed because we can't succeed until you do. If you have any questions about anything, don't hesitate to ask your Gordon Food Service representative or anybody that's part of it. We'd like to encourage you to go to the Ask the Experts booth to find out a couple of different things. Number one, if you need educational credits for what we've talked about here today, and if you've listened to this and tried to process all this information, it's there. This presentation is available to you on a number of locations within Gordon Food Service, so if you need to get it or harvest it or look at it again in that way, we want you to do that. We want you to get your educational credit forms at the Ask the Experts booth. That's number one. Number two, help us by completing a survey, not only about this talk, but every talk, and everything we ask you to do. Your opinion is important to us. Believe it or not, we discuss every form that gets submitted in here. And we take it and we put it on balance with other things we've heard about what we can do better. We'd love for you to respond. Please do. And so on behalf of all of us, once again, that work for Gordon Food Service, thank you for listening. Goodbye. It's not bonjour, it's au revoir. Excuse me. I'm not French, but I did want to say goodbye to our Canadian friends. Thank you so much. God bless.